I met Alex in my first week of college. He was in my psychology class, always sitting in the back, writing in an old leather journal. One day after class, he walked up to me and said, "Hey, I'm Alex. Want to study together sometime? Psychology is tough, studying solo." "Sure," I said, figuring a study buddy couldn't hurt. I gave him my number and we planned to meet at the library later that week. Looking back, that was my first mistake. Our study sessions started out normal. We sat in the library's quiet section. Alex was smart, but he had this habit of staring when he thought I wasn't looking. It was weird, but I brushed it off. "He's probably just shy," I said to myself. Then the texts started. Late at night, my phone would buzz. The message said, "Hey, you up? What are you doing?" At first, I'd reply with short answers, just chilling or heading to bed, but he kept going. He said, "Saw you in that red jacket today. Looked cool." I hadn't told him what I was wearing. My skin prickled, but I didn't want to overreact. Maybe he just saw me on campus, I told myself. A week later, things got creepier. I was eating lunch with my friends in the cafeteria when Alex slid into a seat 2 tables away. He didn't say hi, just sat there, picking at his food, staring my way. My friend Jess nudged me. "That guy's always around. You know him?" she said. "Kinda. He is just a classmate," I said. But it wasn't just the cafeteria. I'd spot him most of the places I went to. I started changing my routine, took different paths to class, ate at odd hours, but Alex was like a shadow I couldn't shake. I'd turn a corner and he'd be there, across the street, near the gym, outside the library, always with some flimsy excuse. One night I was studying in my dorm when my phone lit up. A text from an unknown number said, "You look cute when you're stressed." I froze. My blinds were shut. Could he see me? I thought to myself. Another buzz. "That shirt looks good on you," it said. I was wearing an old gray t-shirt I hadn't worn outside all day. My hands shook as I blocked the number, but the next morning, a note was taped to my door. "Why are you ignoring me?" it said. I had enough. After class, I walked straight up to him. "Alex, are you following me? Be honest," I said. He blinked, looking almost hurt. "What? No way. I'd never do that," he said. "Then what's with the notes, the texts?" I asked. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. I didn't buy it. After that, it got worse. More notes under my door that said, "Miss your smile. Don't shut me out." I started locking my door twice, triple checking my windows. Sleep became a stranger. Every creak in the hall made me awake. One rainy evening, I was alone in the library, sitting in a corner on the 3rd floor. I looked sideways, and there he was, 2 rows away, staring at me. He gave me a slow, empty smile that sent a chill down my spine. I grabbed my stuff and ran, not stopping until I was back in my dorm. That's when I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just awkwardness, this was something dangerous. I locked my door, pulled out my laptop, and started searching about his profile. Then, on page 2, I found a record of him, a news article from 3 years ago. "Local student arrested for stalking harassment," it said. The details were chilling. A guy named Alex had followed a girl at his old college, leaving notes, breaking into her dorm. He'd been caught after she recorded him lurking outside her window, with the same leather journal, a sharp pen, and a smirk. I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning I ran to campus security with everything, the article, the notes, screenshots of his texts. "He's done this before and he's doing it to me now," I said, showing the evidence to them. Their faces turned grim. "We'll investigate," they said. They helped me file a restraining order, and I told my friends, Jess, Mike, everyone, so they could watch my back. My RA moved me to a new dorm, one Alex couldn't find. For days, I held my breath, waiting. A week later, I got the call. Alex was expelled. They caught him near my old dorm, journal in hand, muttering my name. Security confiscated it, page after page about me. My outfits, my routines, even sketches of my face. He had been planning something worse. They wouldn't say what. He's gone now, but I'm still scared. I keep looking around for his face and get nervous when I see unknown numbers. My grades dropped that semester. I couldn't focus with him always on my mind. I started therapy to deal with the fear. Stalking isn't just creepy, it's a slow, crushing fear that doesn't go away. It was my first year of college in a small town in Indiana. I had just moved into my dorm, a tall old building that looked more like a hospital than a school. The halls were long, the ceilings were too high, and the lights flickered sometimes. But I didn't mind. I was still excited. New place, new people, new life. My room was 319 on the 3rd floor. My roommate Mark wasn't coming for a week, so I had the room to myself. It was kind of nice at first, quiet and all. but then it got too quiet. On the first night, I heard knocking. It was soft but steady. It wasn't on my door though, it sounded like it was on the wall, coming from next door. Room 318. I thought, okay, maybe someone's unpacking late. No big deal. The next day, I casually asked my RA if someone was in 318. He looked at me strangely and said, "No one's in there, that room's locked." I just laughed and said, "Well, I heard knocking." He shook his head and said, "Impossible." That night, the knocking happened again. This time, I put my ear to the wall. I heard a whisper that said,
"Hello, let me out."
My heart almost stopped. I pulled away from the wall, totally freaked out. I forced myself to take deep breaths, wondering if it was just my imagination. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning I walked by 318. The door looked normal just like mine, but the air around it was freezing. Everything else in the hall felt fine. That spot though, ice cold. It gave me the chills, so I hurried off to class. By the fourth night I was a total mess. No sleep, always on edge. I pushed my desk against the door and left the lamp on. Around 2 a.m. I woke up to the sound of breathing. Slow, soft, and way too close. I forced myself to grab my phone, turned on the flashlight, and aimed it at the wall. For a split second, I thought I saw a tall shape, like a person standing near my bed. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely think. I blinked, and it was gone. Maybe it was just a trick of the light, but it felt so real. I panicked, grabbed my backpack, and sprinted to the common area where I crashed on a couch. The next morning, I told my RA everything. He just sighed and said, "You should switch rooms." Then he admitted it wasn't the first time he'd heard a story like mine. A student had disappeared from 318 years ago and was never found. I moved to a different dorm that same day. I never went near 318 again. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear those knocks and whispers. It was a Friday night in October 2021, my first year of college in Ohio. I was still trying to figure out if I belonged here. My friend Jake told me, "Dude, you have to have fun and meet new people." I wasn't a big fan of parties, but I didn't want to seem boring, so I decided to go. When we arrived at the frat house, I felt the heavy beat of the music. The sound made the windows shake a little. Outside, I saw people laughing, drinking, and smoking. The front yard was covered with beer cans and cigarette butts. It was messy, but it felt real. Inside the house, everything was a bit wild. There were bright, flickering lights, and the smell of beer filled the air. I noticed groups of students talking and laughing. Then I saw a group of guys standing near the door, their eyes fixed on us. At first, I thought they were just watching like everyone else, but soon I realized they were looking at me, really looking at me. One tall blonde girl with an overconfident smile walked up and handed me a red plastic cup. "Come on, man, take a shot, have some fun," she said in a smooth voice. I hesitated. I wondered, what is in it? But Jake gave me a nudge and said, "Just one, bro, you'll be fine." So I took a sip, and then everything changed. The music slowed down. The voices around me started to sound far away. My body felt heavy, like I was losing control of my limbs. I turned to Jake and mumbled, "I don't feel good." My vision became blurry. Jake just laughed and continued talking with one of the other guys. I tried to stand up, but my legs felt too weak. The room began to spin, and I grabbed onto the wall to stop myself from falling. But even the wall seemed shaky. The faces of the guys watching me were blank, as if they didn't care. I knew something was really wrong. Then everything went dark. I must have dozed off from whatever was in that drink. When I woke up, I was lying on the floor. The music had stopped, and the house was almost empty. My head hurt, and my mouth was very dry. I did not know how long I had been out. Slowly, I stood up. My hands trembled, and I soon realized my phone and my jacket were gone. I looked around and saw the mess. Spilled drinks, plastic cups on the floor, and a couch where someone was asleep. But everyone else was gone, or so I thought. I forced myself to walk to the door, even though every step felt heavier than the last. Then I made a huge mistake. I looked back. Upstairs, in a dark window, I saw them. They were standing there as still as statues, watching me. No smiles, no words, just silent, unblinking eyes, following my every move. I felt sick. I ran away. I changed my number and stopped talking to Jake. I stayed away from that part of campus. I tried to forget that night, to tell myself that nothing bad happened. But even now, when I walk alone at night, I feel those eyes on me. It is like they are still watching long after I left that place.